Today I'm trying to replace my range hood over the cooktop here. The old fan's broken and it's 45 years old, so it's time for a new one. I bought a new one off of Amazon that matches the same dimensions as this one. First step in this is to make sure and turn the electricity off. So I've turned off the circuit breaker, and right now this thing does not work, and I'm going to use a voltmeter to check and verify that the circuitry is turned off before I touch the live wires. So you don't want to hurt yourself. Well, you could use this or a screwdriver. So I've got the fan filters off, and now I'm able to access the inside electrical panel cover. And this is the part where you want to make sure the electricity is off before you start touching these wires. If the power is still on, these are live wires, you can get shocked. So now I'm going to pull it off. I've already unscrewed it. I'm going to pull the cover off and see what's inside so we can disconnect the electrical. So we've got a few wires in here. Should be a matter of unscrewing these caps right here that connect the house wiring to the range hood wiring. So I've got a ground wire right here. I'm going to undo that first. So the ground wire is off, and these are the live wires in here, these two nuts. So you can unscrew these and make sure the power is off. So those are those two nuts that come off, and then the old range hood wiring comes off. You've got your house wiring coming in from the wall, and that just comes through a little hole in the back of the range hood. And then you've got your range hood wires right here that are disconnected. So when this comes off, house wires should just slide out of the back as you pull this unit off towards you. Right now I'm loosening the 4 screws that hold this hood in place, and you loosen these a little bit and then you can slide this unit straight out. And this part, it can fall, so be careful, hold it carefully, or have an assistant help you out. You push up a little bit and then pull straight out, and it kind of slides off those screws that hold it in place. You can see the electrical coming off the back, and now the range hood is free. This is the new range hood. Got it off of Amazon. Actually an open box item for about $19, and it's pretty close to perfect condition except a tiny bit of damage in the back corner down here. It's a pretty basic one. You can get one at Home Depot or Lowe's for $70, $80 brand new. It's got a filter in it, light fixture, pretty standard stuff. Right now I'm unscrewing the new cover for the power supply on the new range hood. You can pull that off, it comes off, goes back on. There's some hardware for it inside of here, and the wires are right here for the fan and the lighting, and the black one for the fan and the lighting right here. So we're going to end up hooking these up to the house wiring once we get this thing mounted. You also notice the grounding connection right here, so we'll be plugging that in through the grounding. And on the back there's a punch out There's a punch out right here where the wiring will come in from the wall. Right now this range hood is oriented upside down. It's sitting on my floor upside down, but the wiring will come in through this hole back here. Alright, so this is that punch out. You got to pull this one out and just kind of put an old screwdriver in there and rock it back and forth a little bit until it pops out. Just be careful not to damage the interior finish, because the inside of this you'll be able to see once you mount this. I'm going to do this out of order a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and put a light bulb in here just so it's easier while I'm in here and comfortable. I pulled off the light bulb cover. Right now I'm screwing in a new light bulb. Got it securely attached, and then this light cover fits right back down on top of it. And that's it. So this is the part of the fan housing on the back that keeps the air, lets the air flow out when it's on, and it closes automatically. This one was screwed on to the top surface of this just for shipping purposes. You can unscrew the screws on either side, pull the screws off, and then this piece actually comes off. It does not end up right here. This part will mount onto the back of the hood back here. This is upside down, sitting on the floor, but it'll go like that. And when the fan turns off, it closes automatically from gravity. And when it's on, it comes down like that to let the air flow out to the exhaust vent. So there's a screw hole on the top and bottom here. You can attach the screws on the top, and there's one more on the bottom. It's harder to see, but the two screws hold this this piece onto the main range hood. And so once you secure those screws on there, it'll hold it on there. And then there's another piece on ours that you have to punch out, and this is for the rectangular shaped vent on the back where it goes straight out. Some units you can hook it up to the top. The vent comes out of the top. This one has that, but our setup in our house has the exhaust coming out of the back. Right now I'm trying to pop out this rear panel, so it's for this one has a top or the back vent, and right now we use the back vent, so I'm trying to get the back vent popped out. And it's just got little tack welds on here to hold it on there, so I'm trying to be gentle and not break the frame of the range hood or mess it up or scratch it. Just gently working it back and forth to work those little tack welds loose. So that one came off relatively easily, just hitting right on the surface just a little bit. You don't want to mess up the fan that's right behind it. That one came off again. Looks like there's two on the bottom. Just be careful not to cut your fingers on this, but you can kind of push it out and work it out that way. The back of this is going to be up against the wall, so it's not too critical to avoid damage. You just don't want to, if you scratch the paint too deep, you could let the metal rust later on. If you want to avoid getting your fingers in there and possibly getting cut from it, you can try a wrench to grab a hold. Might be a little bit safer. trying to straighten out the metal a little bit so that when I install the flap on it, it'll be a little bit straighter, a little bit more flush. So this part, we had to unattach it from inside of it. Now we're going to reattach it on the back of it where it belongs. And right now I have the top of the range hood facing me, so it's sort of upside down. So this thing this is going to come up when the air flows out, close back on its own with gravity once it's mounted. And there's 2 screw holes. They should line up so that you get the right orientation on it. Just take these, screw them in top and bottom, and it should be able to go on pretty easy. Make sure you got the screws threaded on correctly. And it looks like that's pretty good seal around it, all the way around. So that's gonna slide into the hole in our wall. So our unit came with 4 new screws to reattach the range hood. If you're replacing an existing hood, you may want to take off the old screws that are mounted. Ours are a little bit rusty and kind of ugly, so these nice new shiny ones will look a little bit better in there. So we're just going to unscrew the 4 existing screws and then put the new screws back in the same place, and it looks like the old holes line up perfectly with the new holes. So first we're going to take out these 4. When you reinsert the screws, you probably want to put them in about halfway, because the range hood hooks over the screws, slides into place, and then you tighten the screws down to hold them into place permanently. So this screw is only in about halfway, and that's going to allow it to hook over these the large holes here. You hook it over in the large hole, and then you slide it up into that narrow slot. And then once you've got it in the right place and adjusted flush with the face of the cabinet, you'll be able to screw these screws down tight so that it closes over the small part and holds it into place permanently. Now we have all 4 screws up there, just like if it was a new installation. Your instructions should have measurements if you need to measure exactly where they need to go. So you can consult those instructions if you want to be able to place those exactly where they need to go. So this might be a 2-person job, or you can use some cabinet jacks or a jack from the car. Right now I'm inserting the house wiring into the little hole in the back of the range hood. So you insert that through there, and then as you slide it up, kind of feed it in, and it should feed itself through. You can grab it from underneath, just kind of pull it in there so that when you're mounting it, it's inside of the hole. Lift it up all the way and get it onto those big round holes, and then once you have it on there, you slide it to the back, so it's on your smaller holes. I'm gonna go ahead, this thing's in pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it up some, and then before I tighten it completely, I get the spacing in here correct, the front to back. But it's pretty much in there as far as it'll go, and it's roughly flush right now, so it looks pretty good if I just tighten it up exactly where it's sitting. So now the range hood is attached securely to the bottom of the cabinet. Next step is to connect the electrical inside of here. We still have this piece right here. If you haven't taken it off, it'll be on top of your electrical up here. This will be up here on top of it if you haven't already taken it off, so you can take this part off. It exposes the electrical. You pulled your wire through that hole right there in the back, and you've got it exposed here. You got three things. You got the white, the black, and the ground connection. You're going to connect the ground to this green screw right here. Wrap it around once, screw it down tight. You've got the white wires on your range hood and the black wires on your range hood. Those are going to connect to the white and the blacks on here. I'm going to use some wire nuts to attach those together. So you twist them on together and then you twist on the wire nut. So I twisted the ground wire around that green screw, and then we'll take a Phillips screwdriver and just screw it down so that it's tight. Just gotta make sure it makes contact and holds it into place so it won't come off later. You get some vibrations from the fan, so just make sure things in here are attached securely. So that's set. Just remember the power is off already. If you aren't sure, make sure you've turned it off. You can check that with a voltmeter. Next I'm going to connect the black wires together, and there's one for the light and one for the fan, and they are already connected when I bought it. And then you just gotta twist them around to the house wiring. Put your wire nut on there, press down firmly, and screw them on. You just want to make sure it gets a good connection and that they're tight in there. So screw that down so that it's firm, and then just give it a quick tug to see did it work. And yes, these are in here good. The wire nut is on there. These wires are not coming out. Repeat the same with the white wires from the range hood onto the white house wire. You twist them around, and then you take the wire nut, put it on, screw it down good, press in, rotate. You can feel it getting a good connection on there. That's when you know it's on good. Don't over tighten. Just make sure it's nice and firm. Test those wires, and those wires are in there securely, so it should have a good connection. And that's it. You can push the wires up a little bit so you can put the housing back on. And it's all wired up. We just got to put the housing on for the electrical. So we're putting the housing for the electrical connections back on right now, and it slides into a slot up here. It pops in place, and then you rotate it up, and there should be a screw hole. Right there's the screw hole. Just screw it in place. Phillips head screwdriver. Just screw it right in, and that will cover up the electrical connection. And it's firmly in place, but there's a wire right here for the light that comes through, but there's a little slot already built into it for that. And that's it, other than testing it. So now we're going to turn the electricity back on, and we will turn on the unit to see if the light and the fan work. The electricity is turned back on at the circuit breaker, and everything is done with the installation. We just want to test it to make sure it works. This has a toggle switch. Let's test it on high. Fan comes on, you can feel it pulling. You can check outside to make sure that the air is coming out outside if it's vented externally. On low it works. In the middle it works just fine. It's off now. The light comes on, turns off. So everything tests out and this thing is working. The installation is complete, and just clean up and you're done.